3, call the meeting to order. First thing is a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So member presence is Steve, Renee, and myself, and Deb and Sandra are absent with notice. Minutes from May 1st, 2018. Anybody have anything?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm jumping the gun on you.
We'll talk about now. And then 2 non-publics that had nobody absent. Deb was absent, so we can just. Oh, you got it? Okay. Other than that, that's all. All in favor? Aye, 3-0. Thank you. Privilege of the floor, number 1, David? Nothing to add tonight? Recognition?
So we are at a point in the year to wish some of our long-term colleagues well. We will be doing that publicly on June 15th, publicly at the school at 8 a.m. with the whole school meeting. We will have that opportunity to share accolades, and I know, Shannon, do you have a couple words you wanted to share this evening, just so that we can acknowledge them publicly here?
I want to talk about, I just want to say Ellen Young, Ann Welch, and Terry Downing have a combined 80 years in the school district at Ashland Elementary School, and it's a very hard thing for us to say goodbye to people that have made such an impact and are so loved by this community, and children and parents and grandparents and all the relationships that they've established, and so it will be nice to be able to recognize them publicly with all the children there, so that they can kind of really feel that our sense of emotion and our how much we're going to miss them. So I'm looking forward to that on the 15th. That will be a nice thing to do.
There's also another accomplishment. I believe it was just a couple weeks ago that Dr. Bartlett walked across the stage. And although she had finished all of her degree requirements earlier in the year, she did have that opportunity to get a wonderful piece of fashion to her collection, and as recognition of certainly a lot of hard work. So I think that is something that we want to make sure we acknowledge, because that certainly is a testament to lifelong learning and quite a commitment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Proves to the kids that you don't stop learning.
That's right.
It's a great example.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats, Shannon.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Shannon. It's amazing.
Anything else on that? Communications? Anything from the board?
We have some lovely thank yous regarding some leave of absences that the board supported. I just wanted to share those. Pass those along. And I have to tell you, in my many years, that is a rare thing to get such lovely notes, and to get two from one building says a lot about the culture.
Run them through quicker. Those are very nice. Next item is administrative reports, enrollment and principals report. Shannon?
So for enrollment, we're standing steady at 147, where we've had 1 or 2 students trickle out. We've had similar 1 or 2 trickle in. So we've kind of been in a holding for a little while now, a few months, but at any time, even this time of year, we have new students enroll. We've had a couple enroll this past week, so that's where we're at so far, with 7.5 days left.
Yep.
But who's counting?
I know, right? Exactly. So for my report, I wanted to start with, and it's totally up to you whether you would like me to do this or not, but I have a little video that kind of highlights our Project Week experience from pictures that were sent from parents who were there. which I thought, and parents not even of middle school students, but younger students who were really excited and contacted us the next day and said, do you have pictures? Can we share ours with you? So it's kind of a neat little way to capture the event. If you guys would like to see that, I could share that with you.
That was a good thing.
Dave really would love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
You have already agreed to that when you ratified? Okay, yeah, we can do that. Yep. Okay, so not a motion, just a, okay.
Shannon,
Okay. Yes.
do you know off the top of your head where we are with kindergarten right now? Are we at 18?
Great.
18, I think.
18.
Yes. Yes.
It's early.
And then the performance is here. So we can
Big classes every year coming in.
Do you want to?
Well, that's
No,
kind of
it's-
critical.
Right. Maybe it makes sense to just put them both at the same time, and they're on the same cycle.
I watched this earlier in here, just so you know.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want you broken.
A new skill.
Learn to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, you say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for the unglorious. The sharpest words wanna cut me down. I'm gonna send a blood, gonna drown in my
That was, wait, 2018.
Shannon,
An adventure.
I just want to say that I heard from many people that they thought that that was one of the best things that they've ever seen at this school.
Yep.
Like put on. That it looked like it was a ton of work and it was well put together and well organized. And I saw some kids that I don't really think of as performers or extroverted or anything like that. I saw them up there doing stuff that I would never have thought that they would do. So bravo, well done.
Thank you. That really was the whole point of the idea, was to give kids a chance to have that moment where they are completely appreciated for everything that they have to offer and just be valued and to shine. And we put a ton of work in, and we had so many great people that helped us from Plymouth State. Amanda Whitworth would just come flying in and like come up with a whole choreography for an act, and then like fly out, and she would be on her way to perform someplace or go do something else. We had students that were doing their senior year in the dance program would come in and work with kids like 2 times a week. We had Dave Hurd, who is a graduate student and an actor at Plymouth State, who came in and worked with our clowns, our Warrior Academy clowns. We had Kara O'Leary, just happened to be in the basement at Loon looking for something in one of the buildings she'd never been in, and there was all these carnival games, those big, beautiful, heavy, beautiful wood, real carnival games. She's like, "You're not going to believe what I just found," and the boss said we could use them. I mean, Glenn with the cotton candy machine. By the way, did you see your son by the time it was done? He was like a horror show, like covered with cobweb,
Like an old man with gray hair.
and Jackie kept saying, "Garrett, do you have to go perform?" And he's like, "It's okay. I'll wait until it's all done." Like she said, he was like a superstar for her. Like he was so amazing. And then he went out and performed in 2 different acts. Garrett, like when we first started all this, he kind of rolled his eyes at me like, "Okay, sure, Bartlett." And then there he is in 2 different acts, and he's just fantastic. I mean, having those moments with the kids, and I got to tell you, during the days leading up to that, when we did full-blown rehearsals, it was not pretty. On Wednesday night, I went home and I said to my family, don't come tomorrow. Don't come. It's going to be a disaster. And they were like, "No, it'll be fine." And I'm like, "You have no idea." And then everything clicked. Everything clicked. And
And the gym was full.
the gym was
The gym was
packed.
packed.
Good.
We
Put
had
another
such
person in.
great support. Even the carnival beforehand. I mean, we had like Stacy Lucas flew in one day and literally created the strongman, just the outline of the strongman, the face cut out, and the ringleader, and then the kids painted them and they worked on their own. And I mean, we just had so many amazing community people. Katie Mayer came and helped us with advertising and fundraising ideas, and it just was such a huge community undertaking for not just everyone here, but just the town of Ashland. We had such great, Mr. Heath came in, we had a bunch of people that came in and did the pitch process where the kids had to pitch their acts, and how well did that go, Mr. Heath?
Huge difference from the first pitch to the second.
Yeah, the first one I was like, oh no.
You can see the growth. It
Yeah.
was just phenomenal, the way what they had learned over that span of just a couple of weeks.
Yeah. The kids worked really hard, and I don't think it was until that night that they really realized all of that. And the most interesting thing, then following day we had everyone in, and we went right down to the gym and started clean up, because wow, we needed to clean up. But then they all came back to the school and they did these reflections about like, what did they learn about themselves? And we had some of the most incredible answers from the kids that they wrote about how, they never saw themselves as a performer. They wish they had done more acts, because now that they've done it once, they realize how much they loved it. And so it was great that they were able to think about that stuff and kind of put it in perspective in the whole thing, because it was kind of high pressure, like heading into it. And the feedback from the parents was just awesome. One of the parents, as soon as the lights came up, came to me and said, "What just happened? What just happened? I can't even describe what this was. How did this happen?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. Honestly, I'm just in a big goofy dress. Like, I don't know." So, it was just great to have everyone, the parents were being really excited after the fact, and me relieved and tired, but worth it. So I think it really accomplished that purpose, is bringing everyone together as a team, but also giving kids who would never be recognized for something like that, or even have the chance, or even think of themselves like that. Like Lee Norris, who put on those stilts and all of a sudden was like
Yeah.
ready to run in them, while everyone else was barely able to. I mean, he was incredible. Some of our students that did unicycle and the stilts have been asked to be in the parade, in the 150 celebration parade and 4th of July parade, and they're so excited about that. And so I just think it's helped them see themselves a little differently and see that they are valued in this world. So
That's awesome.
it's been great. So a ton of support and shout out to all the people that helped us with that, because it was a huge undertaking and a big community effort. So I really appreciate that, everyone that helped with that.
And I think giving the kids a photo at the end for everybody to sign, that was a really nice touch. It was a good memory
It was awesome.
piece for the kids to have.
And we've brought in the people that helped us the most from Plymouth State, and we had a group shot taken of them for our poster. And so I framed that and mounted it and have the kids all sign it around the outside. And it says Project Week 2018 under the Ashland Big Top, which is really cool. So they got those. They came in and met with the kids, and the kids thanked them and gave them a chance to kind of close the loop and appreciate the work that they did with them. So it was a really nice thing. So whew, glad that's over. Glad that's over.
If you ever do it again, you might have to have 2 shows.
Not happening. Carol O'Leary actually texted me the next day and said, we should do that again tonight. I was like, that's not funny. I'm barely recovered. So a huge appreciation and thanks to everyone who was involved in that. We have still a ton of things happening. I don't know if when you pulled up today, the big white luxury bus was still at the bottom of the hill. It ran out of gas at the bottom of the hill, bringing
Wow.
the 8th graders back from the trip.
Wow.
And poor Zach Morris came running up to get a gas can. I'm like, how many times are you gonna have to fill that thing to just get that bus to roll down the hill? So I think eventually they were like, we'll just wait for someone to come. But so the kids like unloaded there, and it was okay. But right at the bottom of the hill, I'm like, I'm glad it wasn't 93.
Oh, yeah.
Because that would. But all reports of the 8th grade trip to Boston, and it was just fantastic. And even though it rained, the only thing they couldn't do was the Godzilla boat. I said, why? Would they get wet in the boat? And they said, I think the raindrops at 40 miles an hour probably wouldn't have felt good. So I get that. But they had a wonderful time. Talked to both Jamie and Zach, and they sent pictures too of the kids along the way. So that was nice. We have our final Cliff event tomorrow. Actually, Marty Kelly, who is a fantastic speaker and an amazing children's book author, will be here. So that's going to be a really fun way to kind of end the Cliff, all the great Cliff events for this year. So that's awesome. We have a transition meeting that Carrie Sanborn and I go to at Plymouth High School. That happens on Wednesday as well, where we kind of like meet with the administrators there and make sure that the kids are going to have a warm welcome when they get there, and that everyone has all the information they need to make that transition go well. So we do that every year. The band is going to Canopy Lake Park, as they do every year, on the 11th, so that will be fun for them. We do a move up event where we move the kids from the 5th grade into the learning advisories in the middle school, and then everyone else moves into the next whatever their next team will be for the following year. So we do like a half an hour kind of like welcome for those kids, and so they're comfortable and they already know where they're going when they come back in August. They won't remember, most of them, but we at least do that, which I think is really fun. Then again, on the last day of school, we'll have all school morning meeting. It starts about 8 o'clock after we get attendance and lunch count done. And we'll do student awards recognition, the Warrior Awards, the Steve Heath Athletic Sportsmanship Award. That'll be great. So we do those, and then we'll do the recognition for Ellen Young and Terry Downing and Annie Welch, which will be awesome. Followed by Field Day, which will be another great event. Graduation is that night at 7 p.m. and that's going to be an excellent event as always, and followed by some really fun teacher workshop days. Really fun. We finished up our NEWA testing throughout the K-2 this past week. And all of our state testing is done. We still don't have the results of every student because some of them actually went to humans to grade, to score, which is really weird. We had no control over that. We would just get back all the results except 1 or 2 in a class, and it would be because those are being sent. Everything else is done electronically, but there were a few that we are still waiting for. But I was talking to the Holderness principal today, and I think we did really well. in comparison to some other results that he knew of and that he shared with me and stuff. So I think that's great. Our kids worked really hard. So I think it's a good, accurate, I hope it's a good, accurate picture of their work this year.
And we'll plan to bring those in August when we have the
A more
official
complete
results.
picture, sure. I also have for you, met back with the ELA and math committees. As you know, they have been working this year, and I talked earlier about their kind of the action plan and their goals for the year. So I went back to them and had them kind of update, and there's ELAs on one side and math is on the other, where they had a chance to kind of review everything that they had done over the course of the year based on what the goals were that they set. And ELA committee made great progress with writing, and I think that is evidenced in our New Hampshire State testing results. Again, I have just kind of an overview down at the bottom, but they worked really hard to come up with some common rubrics and different editing kind of templates for kids to work through and things like that, so that we would have some consistent processes across the school. So that has been really, I think, a very effective approach. The way that they did it in little bits here and there, they led some staff workshops. They sent out some really great kind of little tips here and there for writing emails that I think were really well received, because it was just a little bit here and there that kind of reminded teachers of the bigger picture and how to be consistent in their approaches to writing. And there's some really strong writing teachers on that committee, so they've done a great job of taking the committee work back to their teams and trying to make it consistent. And if you look down at the bottom of the ELA committee work, it says the percentage of students that were proficient and advanced on the New Hampshire State test that we just took in grades 4 through 8 was an increase of 22.8% over last year's Smarter Balanced results for the same students. So last year they were grades 3 through 7, this year 4 through 8. So 22.8% is huge. Really excited about that. Math committee did a lot of work looking at the data, identifying where we have gaps, overlaps, things that, and one thing they realized is that we really need more kind of consistent math-specific language used across the entire K-8 continuum. So they made anchor charts that use the math and focus terminology. They made sure those were created and used in each classroom. Again, really great math teachers on that committee that were able to take that information and implement it in their rooms. Ongoing conversations about consistent implementation, what it should look like, how Math and Focus is expected to be used. They went from the committee meetings to their own teams and shared those expectations. They also worked on these umbrella statements that are really define all of the specific learning components that need to happen at each level. For the incoming kids need to be at this level, so it's a really good guide for the grade below to use those as those target pieces that are the absolute non-negotiables for the kids to be ready for the following grade. So that has been really helpful too, and now they're just making sure that those are all aligned with the Common Core and that the Math and Focus matches up with those things. We had some growth in math. Grades 4 through 8 in this state test, not as much as we did in ELA, but still a 7.6% increase over the students that were proficient and advanced in last year's Smarter Balanced test. So growth, but not enough, in my opinion. So I have a book list to share with you. These are I only have a couple, so if you just want to take a glance or not, it's the professional books that the teachers kind of all suggested that we use for their summer read. So teachers picked from that list. We ended up with 4 groups of teachers. One of them is actually the book written by the Interlakes librarian.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mrs. Miller.
Yeah. So that Teresa Merrifield went to some workshop or conference and learned all about that and came back, and middle school teachers especially were like, we need that. So they're going to read this over the book over the summer, and then we will start in August. We'll have book discussions based on what book that they read. Or put them in 4 different groups, and they will do they'll have a discussion based on that, and the committees will meet again and talk about how to implement the strategies and things they learned. We really had, most of the teachers wanted to read the one about resilience for trauma affected students, but it's impossible to get that book. Can't get it anywhere. A paperback is like $52. So scratch that for now. So busy few days coming up with the professional development for the teachers, and we'll wrap it up with them doing making sure their classrooms are all packed up and ready to go, and so that they can be cleaned and all that good stuff happen, and then we'll see them again in August. And some of them are going to be doing some summer work, and we're still looking for at least one teacher for our summer blast program and a para. So working on a few in the building, trying to get them to commit, but they have other obligations, so it's hard. It's hard once they kind of get in that mindset for other things, but it's all good stuff. And that's it. Phew, a lot. Thank you.
A race to the end.
Yeah, right?
it is.
Always. It's a sprint.
Thank you, Shannon.
Welcome.
Facilities update, Trish?
Do you want me to do the financial report first?
I'm sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
I already checked that off.
That's okay. I'll be quick. Revenues have increased by $26,145 due to Medicaid reimbursements and collecting of a tuition for a student from Nashua in foster placement. Expenditures, the general fund expenditures report has actually increased the available balance by $3,368 since your last report. As of today, we have unobligated funds of approximately $99,000. Should the board decide to encumber any monies forward. I also included snow plowing and sanding analysis in your packet. You can see that we had a very costly year. I want to look at how we budget for that to perhaps include a longer than 3-year average, rolling average. Because the last, we have been consistently over budget. So I'm gonna try to find a better way to try to anticipate how much snow we're going to get.
Well, if you can do it, just run a meter on.
Yeah.
They may not have a lot of.
Take that show on the road right there.
I don't
figured that out.
I wish I could do a little bit better there.
So the encumbrance, do we have to do that tonight?
You
Or can we
can
do it on August?
you can do it in August.
Okay.
If you so desire. Facilities, the facilities meeting has been rescheduled to June 7th. The discussion will be centered around changing the camera system and other safety items, and those items will be part of the discussion for encumbrances in August. Okay.
That was my concern, is kind of getting them in line.
Right, we want
Yep.
the facilities to be able to have that discussion.
Thank you.
And part of facilities,
sorry.
the state is opening up a grant for safety, June 11th. And so I think that would be part of the conversation on the 7th.
Correct.
It does have a match of about 20% that we would have to be able to meet
Right.
in order to qualify. But I think it's worth a conversation at facilities to see if
Right.
a proposal can be put together.
Isn't there also a new $10 million fund for construction? That, legislation just approved.
There was 10 million approved for safety.
Is it for safety?
And there's a wait list.
No, all right.
Yeah, but they're going to open up another grant opportunity starting the 11th, and we'll talk about that at facilities to try to wrap in those long-term needs that we have.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hiring update, Mary?
So the committees have been very busy. I am pleased to report later on in the evening, you will have a nomination for a school nurse. I know that was an area we were particularly concerned about and had, put in place a possible alternative if needed. But we did have a good pool of candidates and have a great nomination to bring forward later on. Also, we do have a nomination for the primary position as well. The math committee has been very hard at work. They are still chasing one lead that I don't think is probably going to be fruitful. And so we are at the point of starting to look at possibly some alternatives in terms of maybe some shifts of staff within the building and some ways of maybe supporting that work. We should hopefully know more by the end of this week, but that's kind of the stage that we are at trying to try to have a backup plan. There was a candidate, they did, I think you have had candidates come in and do sample lessons, and most recently had someone in on Monday. So the committee has certainly been very active trying to pursue some candidates, but we haven't found that right fit for the school, and want to make sure that it is certainly the right fit. We also still need to fill the maternity leave for Title I, so we are in the process of finishing that up. We are in the process also of looking at the Title I grant. In terms of right now, we have a teacher and a paraeducator. Potentially, if we were to look at somebody filling the maternity leave, maybe that person could roll into an additional paraeducator position, so that we might be a little more attractive to getting someone to take on the long-term position of teacher for the first trimester, and then maybe have something to offer potentially for the remainder of the year. We did talk potentially of seeing about maybe keeping a second teacher, but I think potentially that might not be the avenue that we would recommend.
Do you have the numbers for that?
I'm sorry?
Do you have the numbers for that and what could be covered by grant?
So there are 64 students who receive Title I services.
Right.
Which is quite a few students. That's a lot. That's a lot right now that we have managed by one teacher
And a
and a
para.
5-hour-a-day paraeducator that wasn't filled all year. I think we had later in the year, we had somebody we'd hired who then left, and then took a while to hire back. So that's a number of kids who are receiving services. And we get about, I think it's about 85,000 is the allocation. There is money that we can transfer in from Title IIA. There is some rollover money, about 13,000 from a previous Title I grant, as well as we do have REAP money, which is rural education. So, sometimes you can package it all together and add a few more funds. Certainly, being able to offer somebody a full year teaching position would be ideal in terms of hiring.
Can we do that financially with the grant?
I think we can. It just would be making the decision not to make other decisions with money. I think, if you make a decision to spend your REAP funds that way, you're making a decision not to spend the REAP funds.
Do we have things in
different
line
way.
that we're trying to
So this
spend
past
funds
year,
on?
we did use it for some technology, if you recall, during the budget process. Would we find ourselves in a similar position next year? I think that's the difficulty. The paraeducator positions that we have, we pay so low. I mean, $13 an hour is incredibly low to pay somebody who is
So
a certified educator.
For the leave, it would have to be a teacher, right?
That has to
It
be a
can't be a
teacher.
para.
That has to be a certified teacher that we need. But it is, can we partner it somehow and make that an attractive position, for full year
So that
employment for
whoever
somebody.
we bring in for the short period of time would have something that could finish a year and
Right.
then maybe go back out
Right.
into the job market
Right.
instead of just offering them a couple months.
Right,
It'll
How
be
much-
very difficult to get someone for 3 months.
Right.
You know what I mean?
How much
Especially
of a-
somebody that's qualified to actually do this.
right.
Right.
How much of I know it kind of depends on where they are in their education and step and everything, but how much of a pay cut would that be from teaching position to para position?
So
Huge,
it
right?
would be significant, yeah.
So I think that might be
half.
hard to find a teacher for 3 months and then keep them on for the remainder of the year.
I think it would have to be
Unless it's
changing.
someone who's just teaching for, because they really, really love it.
Well, I think it would be, you'd have to change the level of responsibility. It's not fair to ask someone to do the same level of work, right?
Right.
If you're not really, contracting with them as a teacher. And it would probably be a first-year person who's willing to try to bolster their
classroom
resume. I think ideally, when you look at children who are receiving Title I services, they are amongst our neediest children. It's always best if we can put the highest level of certification with them. So in an ideal world, I think it would be great if we could keep the person as a full year teacher. But I think that would be shifting funds from Title IIA and REAP to do that. I know that
I'm
there,
sorry, what's Title IIA? Can you
Title
remind me?
IIA primarily does a lot of professional development.
Okay.
Stipends we might pay for somebody to be a mentor, to bring somebody in to do a workshop, to send people to workshops. So, I think it would be a one-year piece. I mean, I don't think we would be looking at potentially
Hiring another teacher.
another teacher for permanent.
Right.
But it might be a nice way of softening, a transition. I mean, you have somebody who is going to be out the first trimester of school. It could be a way of trying to
Smooth it out
smooth it out a little. But
As
it
is
would,
possible.
that would be, if we went with a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
that would be then eventually it would be 2 Title I teachers. They would be funded, grant funded. So I think that would be the important piece that we would want to make sure is communicated to people, that those are not district
Taxpayer,
dollars.
yeah.
That they are funded out of grant money, and that it is only for 1 year, as we are in a transition year.
Does Lester see any technology needs for
Well-
the REAP funds or?
We
That you know of?
need to encumber, or at least identify a chunk of our REAP funds by September, or we lose them, and we're supposed to get another allocation of REAP funds, which would balance out what I think we would need to make this happen.
So is it leftover REAP funds from this year that
There are
been
several
used?
REAP grants that we have money left over that we spend. Typically, the grants run about 18 months, but REAP is longer. But you still have to commit the funds. You have to spend them, but you have to commit them by a certain time, or they go. So
Okay.
We have a chunk that has to be spent by September, the end of September.
Is that the chunk that would go towards the teacher,
So
or would
it
it be
would-
funds from next year too?
So we'd have to make sure we put it towards,
Actually, spent or committed, those are two
Right.
different.
I believe it has to actually be expended, like it has to have already occurred. But we could put it
Jefferson said
towards
expended.
salary, towards insurance, and so forth.
Right, but that would only cover like the first month.
But then some of it would be covered through our allocation of Title I, which could then be kicking in October. We also would be getting more REAP funds, which we don't have an estimate of that yet. We have had as much as 6,000, and the most recent seems to be in the $10,000 range. So I think we can, with certainly shifting funds, I think we can definitely probably pull off a teacher. I would like to see if we could pull off a teacher and a para, because it doesn't make sense to me to start the year with, right now we have a teacher and a para trying to service 64 kids. So let's put somebody brand new in as a maternity leave without that additional support. If we could pull off working the funds and have a para for the whole year and have 2 Title I teachers, I think we'd just be making the commitment that we're using our funds to really support our Title I students, which means we're not using those funds to offset technology or maybe some of the professional development, that we have. And sometimes we haven't always, we've rolled over our money. You can roll over a certain amount of money because we just, didn't have the need to do a certain activity that we thought we did.
yeah, we had something planned that we were coordinating with the school of Wisconsin, but it was either them coming here or us going there. When we wanted them to come here, they didn't want. It was during last summer. That was the plan. Couldn't get the teachers to commit to lose part of their summer. And once the school year starts, we can't commit a group of our teachers because we just don't have the staff to do that. So that is money from this past year's Title IIA that we aren't going to be able to do the activity that it was designed for. So that's why that money would roll in.
So we have that to pay a teacher for Title I if we needed
It
to.
could be rolled in. In the past, that when Sarah Davis did the Title I grant, she rolled in all of that money. There was never Title IIA money used for professional development. It went into Title I, and it was used to get as many other adults, certified adults, in here to support the kids as possible. So teachers, some of the teachers we have now are actually the product of starting as a 0.5 Title I teacher, and then as the need became greater or a position open, like Brian Jones is one that started as a Title I teacher and / para. who got his teaching degree and got a classroom position. Oh,
That's the dance.
So I think the question is, because again, you know, they're finite dollars, and when you spend them one way, you're making a decision not to do something else. I do go back to, you know, my preference would always be to have the most qualified person working with our neediest kids. 64 students concerns me that need that level of support.
kids.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
kids. You know, I think that, you know, it would be worth, you know, potentially trying to see if we can organize all these different pieces together and make a lot of progress with this group of kids. Maybe this is a year that, as much as it's a challenge to have, you know, transitions and leaves, maybe it's an opportunity to also try to make some traction.
It's good support for Denise too, I think. I mean, even after 3 months, she's gonna be tired.
I think that's realistic.
Yeah.
Right? I think that is the reality. You know,
So it
and
might
my
be really-
preference would be if we could also afford to do a para out of it. And again, we have to go back and look at the money a little bit more closely.
So 2 teachers and a para.
That would be my
For after
preference
3
because I
months.
think it's again unrealistic to expect this one person to do two jobs.
In the, yeah.
But we have to definitely go back and work with those numbers a little bit.
We
I
also
think-
will have that full-time sub position too available, that unless we need it,
Right.
that person for a sub, that could be
Helping out.
committed to helping
Right.
specifically with Title I.
I just want to be
Lisa
cautious
first
we
till
don't.
November.
Exactly, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's a really good resource that we haven't had, we've never had that, so.
So I think we can, if you're comfortable, we'll pursue then a second teacher. I want to make sure the board is comfortable with that.
I am.
I am.
Okay, and we will, again, I think it's really important that the public know that this is through grant funds, this is not through local tax dollars. It is through our allocation that we get from the state of New Hampshire, which they get from the U.S. Department of Education.
Yes.
Is that everything for the hiring?
So the math is still in a holding pattern. And
Are we
then
gonna have a non-public?
we do have a
We do?
non-public.
Okay.
And then we have maternity leave. We do need to hire that position, I think knowing that it's a full-time position that we are hopefully able to fund. Again, we have to always check the money. We go back, we check it 3 times. We'll be able to wrap that up sooner than later.
Okay. Thank you. So the memorandum of understanding, we're like half done?
We're half done. We're almost there. I misunderstood an email and thought, woohoo, we're all set. But no, we are, SAU 2, we are done. They are ready to sign, if we're ready to sign. And then Pemmy Baker, I believe they will take it up again on June 19th. And I think it sounds to me like potentially some wordsmithing and, you know, exact language and so forth. The superintendent is still hopeful that we will definitely get a touchdown at some point.
Excellent.
And I think we're getting closer. So it probably makes sense just to sign them both at the same time, and then that way we have them kind of on the same cycle.
Yep. And we'll probably want to have a motion on that because it has changed. So if we get the final documents.
Yeah, we have the final.
Right.
Get them to us early just so we can.
Perfect.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Business of the board, anything from the board? Nope. Business superintendent, general operating expenses, Trish?
You have in your packet manifest 2015 for $91,229.38. There's nothing unusual to report.
We have a motion to approve the manifest. Anyone? Second? Steve? Any questions? If not, all in favor? 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a proposed increase in school lunch prices for the 2018-19 school year. Trish?
Thank you. In your packet, you have a memo from me requesting an increase in breakfast and lunch pricing. We have not had any increases in breakfast pricing since 2012 or 13, and our last lunch price increase was in 16-17. Every year we need to evaluate our pricing structure based on the federal government's paid lunch equity tool, which takes what we receive, what they pay us for free and reduced lunches, as well as paid lunches. They do provide some support for that, and compares it to what we're charging. And so it's, if you compare to, for example, for a free breakfast, we receive from the government $2.12 for each breakfast. We currently are charging $1.50. So the paid lunch equity tool takes those differences and averages them out, and then tells you how much you really need to increase each year or periodically. And that's where my recommendation of 10 cents comes from. That's their minimum that we can increase. For a free lunch, we are paid a total of $3.23. And we are currently charging $1.50.
Reduced lunch stays the same,
Yes, that's not set by us.
and
That's set
then
by
the
the
adult
government.
is also going up 10 cents each.
Motion to approve.
What's that?
Do you need a motion to?
Yes.
So moved.
Renee? Second. Steve? Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Permission to hire. This is here because I'm going to assume we won't need a meeting in July to authorize Mary to hire any candidates for the positions that are open and what we discussed tonight. And then she'll let us know at the August meeting.
I'd certainly send an update as well.
Take a motion, Renee? Second, Steve? Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? 3-0. Thank you. New business, the food service contract, Trish?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, yep. I even made notes and I skipped right by my notes. For business of Superintendent D, we have the Ashland Teachers Association agreement, which they have gotten back to us. It's already been voted on and planned on. I just wanted everybody to know that they've agreed to it, they've signed it, so I'm gonna sign it tonight. And then it'll be all set and put away, and we'll be good till June 30th, 2022.
And we will get copies for the board.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then the next item, I have E, program assessment, Mary?
So as part of receiving federal funds, there are requirements that we have to sign off on, that we are in compliance with. And new this year, the Commissioner of Education did send out saying that typically superintendents sign this on behalf of the school district and SAU. But this year they are requesting from the Department of Education that the school board chair sign off as well. Some guidance that I did receive is that, it's really, I think that the board, as a collective group can make a motion to basically approve having me sign on behalf of myself and on behalf of the school board that we are meeting these assurances. Primarily, the assurances relate to a number of things regarding fiscal management and accounting practices. There are other pieces regarding drug-free workplace, weapons and so forth, things that the federal government mandates that you have in place, and these are really just assurances that you do. Many of them are covered through our policies or through, as I said, the fiscal pieces through our business practices that we have in place. So I have gone through all of them and, am confident that we have all all of these piece requirements in place, and that I can very safely sign off and indicate that we do follow these requirements and reassure them that we have them in place. I will say that the deadline, we received this on Friday afternoon. The deadline is June 30th, so that's a pretty short turnaround. And we do receive funds for the SAU as well, relative to our IDA comes in that way, which is for special education, and then we manage it at the SAU level and give the portions to each district. So I think what I'm also covering in the minutes is, as you serve on the SAU board, that you are aware that then we would have to, that this would also be something we would sign on behalf of the SAU. So I think I'm trying to make sure, I think the hope of the commissioner is that the board is aware that we basically have to have all these things in place, which there are many levels that require us to have them in place. I'm confident that we do, and that we can certainly, the board can feel assured that we have these assurances, and that I can certainly, as a representative of the SAU, with your authority, sign off on them.
Thank you. So what we want to do is make a motion to authorize Mary to sign on behalf of the board, and then attach those minutes to this document.
Correct.
So Renee made that motion. And Steve second. All in favor? 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And F was crossed off, okay. Now, new business. Food service contract, Trish.
As you know, we had gone out for proposals with food service companies. We had invited Cafe Services, Abbey Group, Sodexo, Chartwells Educational Services, Fitz, Fox and Associates, Whitson's of New England, and Gourmet Gorilla to submit proposals. These are all approved by the Department of Education to provide food service and management services. We did work closely with the New Hampshire Department of Education Bureau of Nutrition to develop the request for proposals. Cafe Services and Abbey Group both attended a mandatory pre-proposal conference on April 30th, in which we toured the kitchen facilities. We have only received one proposal, and that's from Cafe Services. I did not bring their proposal tonight, but if anyone would like to see it, I have it in my office. It's in a 4-inch binder. So it's quite extensive proposal that they provided for us. And you can see the breakdown of the analysis of their proposal. The general fund does contribute $20,000. And then between sales and reimbursements, their administrative and management fee is $7,500. So they would guarantee a surplus of $2,200.
Any questions?
I'm disappointed that Gourmet Gorilla didn't show up.
Me too. I kind of wanted to see what there would be like.
I thought there should be food samples.
Yes.
Right?
Lots of bananas.
Yeah.
Second.
Second.
Renee made the motion, Steve second.
To approve.
All in favor? 3-0.
Thank you.
B, proposal for Ashland School Staff Facilitator for Ashland Parent Community Organization.
So you have in your packet a attachment 6, and certainly through the withdrawal study, I think one of the main recommendations was really to try and find a way of supporting students attending Plymouth Regional High School, look for whatever barriers might be in their way to meeting with success. I think transportation was certainly discussed quite a bit, and also looking for ways to survey 9th graders and their families on, how did they feel the transition went. And again, are there other things that are impacting their success and participation within various programming at Plymouth Regional High School? And really to do that, I think we need to give this some focus and some attention. And my recommendation is that we look for a staff member here who's willing to do some stipended work and help facilitate a committee. That's an Ashland parent and community organization, so that would be outreaching to the community. Would be a person who would be a liaison with Plymouth Regional High School on this particular effort, particularly getting surveys, asking questions. It'd be good to know some of the nuances that they see as we craft that. The person would develop the survey, would collect the results, analyze it, and present their findings to this board. And then looking for, working with stakeholders on trying to respond to any of the results of the survey. And so looking at a $1,200 stipend and looking to use funds within the school district budget to support that, we would certainly be able to shift some funds around to accomplish that. I would also, I did talk with the chair regarding, typically in the past, the student services director or director of special ed, as it was at one point, attended school board meetings. I think it would be really helpful from a representative from the SAU to be on the committee. I think it would be much to ask of this individual who's new to us to take on the leadership of the committee. But I think having that person attend those meetings versus school board meetings might be a more effective use of that time and can be a support to the staff person who takes on this project. And so I would like to propose it this evening that in order to really, I think, do something with that recommendation, we need some support to do that.
Are there staff members that are interested in filling that position?
I think a lot of this is part of what Carrie Sanborn does anyway, but I think it's a much greater undertaking with the survey. It's so valuable. I mean, she thinks it's a fantastic idea. I don't know if she's going back to school, so it might be something that she said she would be willing to team up with a middle school teacher who would be willing to do it with her and try to help kind of work together on that. But she definitely thinks it's a valuable exercise in trying to make the transition better. So I think we do have some interest. It's just trying to find the people that have the time and are willing to undertake that.
And I think the other piece, certainly community involvement will be I think an essential part of really trying to address any barriers.
Any other questions on it? I think it's a good idea. Chuck sat here for many meetings, and I think that time is better utilized in his community than here. When we have the yearly report, we'll still have that meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll have that in August.
Have that in August. So she'll still come to that meeting. But for the other meetings, to use that resource just to stay here for a couple hours, I think it's better spent on that committee.
Absolutely.
Do you have a motion? Renee?
Sorry, Steve, I think you tried
Go
to make
for
the
it.
first on that one.
No.
Second?
No, second.
Excuse me. Steve?
Yes.
Any other discussion? Not all in favor? 3-0. Thank you. Okay, policy, we have third and final reading. Motion to approve third and final reading of policy 5133 dress code. Or I'll just say as presented. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 policies there.
Yes.
I won't read them all. Third reading. We have a motion to approve. Steve?
Sure.
I don't want to second.
Renee second. All in favor? 3-0. Policy, first reading, policy 4140, emergency care, staff. Let me get caught up here. I did have some notes, so I just want to. Emergency care staff, I just had two, maybe typos. On the last two bullet points, emergency contact, C should probably be lowercase. And then additional emergencies should probably be lowercase. That's all I have on that one. Have a motion to approve that? Renee? Steve, second? All in favor? 3-0. Thank you. Policy 5131.1, student discipline and due process. Anybody have anything on that? Take a motion to approve. Renee? Second? Steve? All in favor? 3-0. Thank you. Policy 5140, emergency care students. I had one thing, it's the second black line, paragraph, I'm sorry. The last sentence says this card, but we had changed card to form previously, so that probably, word card should probably be form. Yeah, that's all I had. Anything else? If not, I'll take a motion to approve. Renee? Second, Steve? All in favor? 3-0. Policy 5149.2, hazing. Anything, anybody have anything there? If not, I'll take a motion to approve. Renee? Second, Steve? All in favor? 3-0. Policy 5160, bomb threats. In the second paragraph, throughout this whole thing, everything is designee except for the last line of the second paragraph that says his or her assistant superintendent shall be consulted. Should that be changed to his or her designee shall be consulted in case
I know.
we
To
don't
be
have a...
consistent
Yep.
would be a good idea.
Anybody have anything else? If not, take a motion. Renee? Second. Steve? All in favor? 3-0. Thank you. Policy 5165, safe schools. Anybody have anything on that? If not, I'll take a motion to approve. Renee? Second, Steve? All in favor? 3-0. Thank you. Policy 6176, use of media in the classroom. Anybody have anything on that? If not, I'll take a motion. Renee? Steve? All in favor? 3-0. Thank you. Policy 6170.1, determination of specific learning disability. Anybody have anything on that? If not, I'll take a motion. Renee? Second? Steve? All in favor? 3-0. Thank you. Pros of the floor, number 2. Anything? No? Before we move to announcements of non-public, for the public, we have a scheduled meeting for Tuesday, July 10th, which was tentative. We put it on the calendar in case we needed it. I don't believe we do. So I would take a motion to cancel that.
Yeah.
Okay. Quick on that one.
Sorry.
Second, Steve? All in favor? 3-0. Thank you. So the July 10th meeting is canceled. And then that's it for that. Announcements, Tuesday, June 5th
Today.
is today. So Tuesday, August 7th, will be Ashland School Board meeting here in the Media Center Policy Review Committee at 5:30. And school board meeting will be at 6:30. And that's all we have for tonight. And we have need a motion to go into non-public.
We'll go for it. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Renee?
No, I said, you go.
Oh,
So Renee made the motion.
Great form.
Steve?
you take roll.
You do,
I do.
Yeah.
Glenn?
yes.
Steve?